I am a visual artist and a curator. As a visual artist, I work in the framework of the Focus Grupa collective, and as a curator, I'm momentarily working as a curator and an organizer. As my work or my position at the moment is programming director of the City of Women Association in Ljubljana, where I have moved also from Rijeka, actually, a bit less than 2 years ago. I think that's quite okay for now about me. Well, maybe I can just say that before I came to Ljubljana, I was also involved in an organization in Rijeka called GSG, and also started a magazine there of the same name, and edited and later co-edited its first 3 editions, as well as cohabited with some of the people here in the space with Tomislav in Delta 5 studios in Rijeka. So I would now maybe start with my presentation. The presentation will deal more or mostly with the work of the City of Women, which is a nearly 30-year-old organization now, and my memory doesn't go that far, but I did some research to be able to do this work, and so I will talk a bit about the history and also about our contemporary projects and ideas and concepts. To be more illustrative, let me just share my screen, which is a simple PDF just to make things more visible. Basically, the City of Women developed in the mid-90s, in 1995. It was initiated by a governmental agency, and it was called Office for Women's Policies. This office was established in 1992 and later dissolved into, I think, the Ministry of Labor around 2000. I would need to fact check this, but it doesn't exist as such anymore. The reasons for funding the office and for office's funding of the festival had to do with the retraditionalization of the society along gender lines, which was one of the first instances that happened with the disintegration of Yugoslavia in Slovenia as well as elsewhere. So there was a decline in engagement of women in politics, as well as some challenges were placed on basic achievements like access to safe legal abortion and similar. The Office for Women's Policy, it came with a plan to move forward the issues of gender equality, focusing on culture, as a way to kind of distribute ideas about equality on a more on a non-political, let's say, sphere. And it initiated the festival in 1995. From the second edition already until this day, the festival is developed and is run by the Association for Promotion of Women in Culture, City of Women. That's the kind of short name. City of Women, or this association, it's a non-governmental association, so in a sense, even though there is this legacy, we work now as an NGO. And we were established in 1996 with an initial task to prepare and run the festival. But the activities expanded into different fields quickly. And today we're an organization that has a vast field of activities. Among them, I will mention firstly advocacy. I guess that this initiation by the governmental agency and also our inclinations as people working with the organization made us kind of act more in a way of really making changes within the society as such, so not only on the symbolic level. These are some more recent, let's say, activities done by the organization. In the early years, as a cultural organization, City of Women supported many civil initiatives that fought for gender and social equality, but we did not participate hands-on in these struggles. But in 2020, guidelines for gender equality in culture were delivered. These were kind of in line with the main objectives of the City of Women to advance the recognition and material position of women in arts. And by women, we today in the organization mean both cis, trans, and intersex women. The guidelines were prepared kind of as a strategic document, focusing on most pressing inequalities in culture. And also suggesting measures. The document is in Slovenian language because it is focused in the Slovenian context. And just before New Year, we were also invited with together to co-organize an event together with the Ministry of Culture, which was focused on prevention of sexual harassment and sex-based violence in culture, aiming to prepare an action plan that would then be distributed towards institutions and organizations in culture. The other project that I could maybe put under this umbrella of advocacy, even though I could also say it is a community building project, is presented in the slide. This is an award. It's called George, sorry, or Women on Women award, and it's been given this year for the 4th time to different women working in different fields. The nominations are gathered momentarily. The award will be given in March by the independent committee, and there are usually 5 awardees, being either individuals or collectives that in their specific fields are advocating greater equality and kind of different ideals that are aligned also with our organization. Part of our activities is also community building that I think also this project in some sense brings forth because of this meeting that happens in March and kind of affiliated individuals from all walks of life with whom then we make contact also through this award. But we also do community building projects that are directly connected to artistic outputs. So for instance, and also one of the things, because of these types of projects are usually long-term, labor-intensive, and sometimes financially expensive productions, we usually work on these types of projects through Creative Europe funding. that enable the meetings, the coordination of the many people involved. In the image here, you see one stage in the production of a theater performance that is made within the project called Performing Gender, Dancing in Your Shoes. It's focused on dance, and we worked with, or we still work with a number of people either with a dance background who are themselves dance makers or are kind of want to dance, in some sense, want to use their body for expression, of all generations, who came together with several mentors in this process. The process was started already more than a year ago, but are now in the production phase of making a performance with Vital Sojnik and Brina Klamfer, who are two Slovenian, one is a choreographer and the other is a dramaturg and a regisseur. Then Everything is All Right. It was also a performance that premiered last year within another, or was partly enabled by another Creative Europe project called Be Part, made collaboratively also with the Puppet Theater in Ljubljana. And here we invited Nataša Živković, choreographer and a dancer, who together with my colleague Sara Šabec, who is educator and also a performer who worked within the City of Women, actually with community projects, worked with a group of 13 youth, high school youth, on a theater production. And since its premiere last year, it kept playing, and we will also have a few performances scheduled this year. Also, another project that was done within the same European framework was made upon an invitation to Selma Banic, whom you maybe know because she has worked several times in Rijeka. And with her, we created temporary collective called Politics of Touch Collective, which was joined by different women with different backgrounds. But the focus of the project was somehow to look into the history of the erasures, the political erasures in Slovenia in the 1990s, when the around, well, 25,000 people lost their citizenship due to political changes and weren't able to receive their citizenship back. And also some of the members of the collective have had either this experience themselves or were family members of people with such an experience. The project will continue. The product or the outcome of this series of meetings that were done in Zagreb, Ljubljana, Logatec, which is a small town in the vicinity of Ljubljana, on which we collaborated also with Red Cross and with another NGO that deals with women victims of violence in Slovenia, is kind of this big piece of cloth that has these stories inscribed in it. Of course, it's not clear, but the thing is that the whole process is in some sense the work. So the meetings and the collaborative moments and relations that were built during this time. Another project that is also in production now, it came out of an earlier collaboration that was done within a framework of another Creative Europe project called WOW. It was initially presented as Catastrophic Blues, but a number of women who were involved in that project have now proposed a project that they will be working on that is called Decoding Resilience, and they're a group of 5 women with migratory backgrounds, and most of them with artistic either education or practices, who will kind of develop a project together and present it also this year in May. Another activity that we do, and we have a person that is also devoted to this aspect of our work. This is art education, which is still coordinated by my colleague Tea Hvala, but will be taken over soon by another colleague, Sara Šabec, where the idea is basically based on the fact that art can be used as a tool to talk about societal issues, and Tea devised ways of using feminist and queer pedagogies to kind of end in kind of using also artworks that were somehow connected to the City of Women, either produced here or shown within the festival or in other frameworks, as tools to talk about different issues. There are several outputs that we do within art education. One of them is every day is the 8th of March, which is a quiz dedicated to high schools mainly, which is kind of an academic hour of questions and answers provided to educators that they can use to open up different subjects in their curriculum. Also, Week of the Open Doors, oriented more to universities, where either professors come and to our premises. We only have office. We only have offices. We don't have a venue, a performance venue, or any kind of a presentational venue. But in the offices, for instance, we have a library, and we have an ability to show something or to talk about different works and again raise different subject matters to the students, as well as sometimes we get invited with specific requests to universities to deliver a talk on a specific issue. Within this art education, let's say, umbrella, we have recently, or we're still in the process of developing different materials for teachers and youth workers. Within an Erasmus Plus project, and the image that you see here in the background was part of building up of these resources. We will produce several guidebooks or kind of books that are using, in this case, mostly visual arts as basis to talk about, again, gender equality. So from workshops that were done in museums, and then this material was gathered and produced in a book form, to the campaign that we did together with this organization called Koroška Pride, and with the collective, a Dutch artistic collective, Tools for Action, and so on. So we have these materials that we also then have use specific moments when we can distribute them, because somehow also when you produce something like that, it's really necessary to be able to distribute and to get into the classroom. So we're also finding ways of how to deliver these educational tools to people that they're intended for. Because with the framework that we personally have, our offices, and we don't have a direct contact to classrooms. Also recently, a project that just finished, but it will continue in some way or another, was education, but not oriented towards youth, but towards kind of capacity building for the NGO sector, that focused on burnout in this specific sphere. What is specific, what is not, what could be done, what is structural, what is personal. And my colleague Urška Jež was the one running this project, and also will continue researching and finding ways of kind of helping the sector as such. So art is not such a focus in this specific project. As I already mentioned, we have a library that was built up through years of donations mostly, and it's available. It's in our spaces in Ljubljana, in Metelkova building. And the catalog is also online, so if somebody has an interest in a specific theme that deals with art, feminism, and its intersection, we might be the right address. We do our own publications as well, not en masse because of also funding issues and the personnel, the number of personnel we have. But this was one of the recent books that was edited by my colleague Tea Hvala, that was kind of at the same, that was looking through the history of women in Slovenia and making kind of a tour book or excursions, a book for excursions, where you have a narrative about a specific historic person placed in a location. And you can also do a tour. So we also offered tours at certain moments, and we still do. Actually, the project was part of also a creative, this book was also one of the outcomes of a Creative Europe project. And there's a website that you see down here, which shows the locations in Slovenia, but since the project was coordinated with in Croatia with Kazona from Zagreb, who make Vox Femina Festival, if you know of them, and with TIT from Skopje, and also another organization from Ireland, but the location in Ireland, the organization in Ireland didn't produce a map, so basically you can see also the narratives in Croatia and in Macedonia, and as well books were produced the same as the one that we have published. There is a book that was made in Zagreb and another in Skopje. Other publications that were frequent were called reflections. They were focusing on our former production. So basically, when a year would end, calendar year would end, then we would prepare a small publication that was distributed initially more internationally, thought of as kind of showing our productions maybe to international audiences. Then last year we decided to make a Slovenian and English version, and because we're now building a new website that will be published finally in March, that is much more user-friendly and is much more, the organization is much clearer. We will be transferring this type of publishing online, and will not thus be doing these kind of reflections retrograde, but real time. When we make a certain project, we are able to reflect on it immediately, invite somebody to write something about it. We also did several roundtable discussions or lectures that are at this moment hosted basically on Facebook, and we'll be able to then transfer it to the new website. Also, another aspect that is available online, it's not on our webpage, but there was a project initiated by the Museum of Contemporary Art Metelkova that is called still Mrežni muzej, where the archives, video archives mostly, were categorized and uploaded within this platform that you can reach either by clicking on Mrežni muzej. You can reach it also from our current website, and you will be able to reach it also from the new one. There are video documentations of the performances that we had. The archive itself is showing mostly that metadata directly. Not everything is open access. But in case of interest, there is, of course, a possibility to research this material with a password that you can obtain from us. As you now hear, the festival is by far not our only activity. But the funding schemes, for one thing, and also other considerations that I will describe in more detail, have made us also distribute our program. So the festival is always in October, and it's 10 days. But also we decided to kind of devise different thematic focuses that are then presented in different times. We started with this type of work strategically in 2021 with a event that was called the festival Wow, where we presented works like when actually this book was also promoted, and the festival or the event was itself focused on this type of archival activity, and also archival activity of searching for missing women from Slovenian history that were not that got erased somehow with different with time, but were important in their own time, or with, for instance, the award that was then given the second time, also contemporary achievements of women were celebrated. But for instance, then at the end of last year, we also had another short cycle with 6 events that dealt with mythologies. It was called Myth and Meduses. We also invited Lala Raščić, who did a new performance with us, or kind of created out of several works that were either video or performances and were disconnected, a serial work that was like a 2-hour performance. The focus and other projects were also presented there, and the focus of this program was kind of looking into mythologies, specifically Greek mythology, as a way of constructing, as myths that have also kind of constructed or helped propagate patriarchy, but also as looking at the possible possible ways of using mythology for more progressive projects. And for instance, then again, this May, with this focus on community projects, we will have again several works, several productions will be presented in May, but then we will also have a discursive slash dialogical event in which we will invite the people that participated in different productions, because of course some issues came up. We don't have a long history of working with these types of projects, but enough to maybe ask ourselves together with the people with whom we worked, what was good, what was bad, what should be changed, and how could we continue. So yeah, that's something I'm looking forward to. And now when we come to the festival, it's 10 days, as I said, event in October with a lot of, it's a huge logistic undertaking. There is 7 people engaged with the organization at the moment. And but for the festival, we have many adjunct collaborators. The festival is dispersed, as I mentioned before. We don't have a venue. So we basically have an office space that was also well, under attack 2 years ago, but at the moment we're still there, and hopefully we will keep the offices. But without the venue, we basically need to negotiate every year in advance with different venues to be able to present our program. This is at the same time, as I said, logistically heavy, but it brings in a lot of collaboration between us and different actors in Ljubljana, and in some sense metaphorically makes Ljubljana a city of women in October by this dispersion. The festival is interdisciplinary, which it is focused, or it was started as a performing arts festival, but it has since always kind of covered performing arts, film, music, visual arts, classical theater, theory in a sense of feminist theory, artistic theory, activism. So it's very vast, and in some sense it's also curated, but because of this different aspects and knowledge is needed to be able to make it and conceive it. Of course, it's as an artistic director, I am kind of curating it together with different selectors, and we're trying to now make also, we have selectors with whom we work each year who propose program, and we're now developing ways to co-curate within the organization with different colleagues who have different knowledges and inclinations to somehow then also focus on their respective fields, and then we kind of try to communicate and discuss the theme, and then as well the outputs together. Of course, when somebody is doing their own part of the work, they're autonomous, but we have a lot of or we're aiming to have more and more communication going on, because that is also I think an advancement to the program. Of course, as an organization, we have a greater programmatic focus on women and queer people, but this is in no way the only focus. We try to talk about issues that are like feminist issues from an intersectional approach. So relating gender with other personal circumstances that affect the life chances of people, like different abilities, sexual orientation, race, class, and so on. And this has been also present within the festival for years. And the festival as such has this kind of how would you say that, renommee to open up themes and topics that maybe aren't that present in the locality at the time. And if I can just run through the last festival, that was this October, the last October, and I will focus on the theme of South in Us, which was of this segment of the program, because it had kind of parallel programs, parallel themes. I curated this part with I curated the exhibitions here and the performances, and invited my colleague Tea Hvala, who worked on the discursive program, together with me. So just a second. So the theme of this whole program, of this segment of the program, was the colonization of Southeastern Europe, and it thematized racisms and remnants of European history of colonialism in our region of the world. The theme I dealt with also earlier within Focus Gruppa, in some sense, focusing also on some remnants of such history within Rijeka. And later in the GSG magazine, together with my co-editor Sanja Horvatincic, where we expanded the theme and kind of looked into maybe analogies within different peripheries of Europe. With the exhibitions here, the three exhibitions in Škuc, Mala Galerija, and Alcatraz focused on different aspects of this issue, and Škuc was kind of focused on territory, and the artists that were presenting there were mostly either from the regions of either ex-Yugoslavia or around the Habsburg Empire, or ex-Habsburg Empire as well, or thematized these localities. Mala Galerija focused on the time of non-alignment and Yugoslavia within it. And Alcatraz the exhibition in Alcatraz focused on the ideology or the artificial construct of race that produced racism as a way of classifying people based on outside factors. The exhibition in Škuc was kind of looking at, with its focus on the territory. It started somewhat from this, maybe its first premise was the exceptionalism within the region of ex-Yugoslavia, of kind of claiming not being racist because of not being in contact with colonialism or not being colonizers. And in this sense, the exhibition was somehow evoking the 90s experience of the artists who were exhibiting and working within this framework of East Art, which was a framework somehow also canonized in Ljubljana, with the works by artistic groups like Irvin, or the Museum of Contemporary Art with its Artist Plus 2000, I think. I'm not sure which is first. collection, and the artistic projects that were kind of produced within this and exhibited within this framework were projects that were mostly talking about the othering, exotization, and different types of stereotypes that were placed to the artists that were coming from this region. The other maybe premise or important moment for building up this exhibition is the book by Catherine Baker, a researcher from UK who wrote one of the first studies on the issue of intersection of race and the Yugoslav context, which is called Race in the Yugoslav Region. It was published in 2018, and it looked into the context or the region that by its sheer placement, geographic placement, was of course in contact with people from different parts of the world, from Mediterranean slave trade until today, and she goes through this history. And maybe the question that was asked through this exhibition was, how come this personal experience of othering, not just in the 90s, but in other periods as well, did not lead to a greater sense of solidarity. With the works, for instance, that were exhibited, there was a work by Ana Dasovic, Dutch Croatian artist who within this work was firstly came in possession of documentation that was produced by the Dutch Peace Corps in 1990s. She managed to obtain the rights to use it, and she shows this within the part of the work called Raw Material, where the exercises were filmed of the Peace Corps or the Blue Helmets before coming to Bosnia. And in some sense, her claim and feeling of the video shows basically different types of racism that have seeped into this material. And with the second work that is subtitled Surfaces, Anna creates a film essay where she uses this same footage, partially raw material footage, and has a voiceover and also shoots images in Potočari camp near Srebrenica. The graffiti that were on the wall there, and kind of puts this narrative forward of, or tries to imagine whether this way of seeing people who were to be protected also enabled the genocide in some sense in the first place. The work was superpositioned or placed beside this very paradigmatic work by Sheila Kameric that you probably know of, where Sheila does, in the time when it was when the first images from Potočari were coming out, and her friend, the filmmaker who was doing the filming there, showed her this text that was written in the camp. She used the words and placed them on her own body in order to kind of personify this this statement and look back into the eyes of those who said it in some sense. I can maybe skip a bit now and show a work by Belinda Kazem-Kaminsky, who this was an interesting line that came and crossed through different venues and also representational formats. This was a work where Belinda looked through the archives of through the archives in Vienna and found images of human zoos, or these exhibits of humans, so-called anthropological exhibits, in which people from different parts of the world that were not white were exhibited and shown in their supposedly natural ways of behaving, but it was a staged performance that traveled through Europe. And in Vienna, Belinda found these images when the show was in Vienna, one of the shows in Vienna, and she decided to frame the image not in a way that she shows the human zoos, so not showing the exhibit, the people that were exhibited, but showing the viewers or the white audiences that came to see the event. Also, in some sense, claiming that, adding to different claims that were made already, that these shows were relevant for the constructedness of whiteness, or the construction of whiteness and superiority that was connected to it in the 19th and 20th century. Also popularization of racism, because it wasn't, people of working class didn't have access to these narratives, and these shows were doing exactly that. They were making it accessible to everybody, and in this sense, kind of creating this division of us and them based on body color or skin color. This line that then intercepted was focusing actually on human zoos, with a work that was exhibited elsewhere by George Chakravarti, who did a performance, the third iteration of this performance, this time done in Ljubljana. Initially, he did the performance in London and in Birmingham. And there he was dressed in attire of the King George time, so black dress, tie, similar to how Tomislav, similar to Tomislav's performance as well. And there he was kind of showing this oppressive attire that kind of was trying to make the other more acceptable, and at the same time placing himself in a human zoo situation, making this very uneasy situation with the audiences today as well. He decided on another step. He decided to change the attire and not dress in Georgian, in kind of this smoking type of dress, but in he asked us to suggest what would be a 19th, 20th century Slovenian traditional dress, and we suggested this upon talking with anthropologists from the ethnographic museum. Because as much as this is a traditional costume, it was appropriated in the 19th century within this national rising as the traditional Slovene dress. And of course, we think that, or I think that it is an overstatement, but at the same time, I think it's an interesting provocation as well. So a complete overstatement and still an interesting provocation. So I hope that we will also be able to, with this web blog that we have, where we will be able to write articles, that we will be able to somehow also elaborate on projects and different meanings that we think are relevant for projects that were shown at some point. Also, there was within the discursive program actually a very interesting talk by Andrea Mesaric, who is a Slovenian anthropologist, a researcher who did historical research on human zoos that traveled through Slovenia and exhibited in Slovenia. So it was really placed in the location. It's not an abstract thing that happened in UK. It happened in Slovenia. It happened also in Croatia. Her research is focused on Slovenia, but because the exhibits or the people, these troops traveled, they were usually coming to Trieste or to Rijeka ports, so and going to either Vienna or Budapest. They would then also stop on the way and make shows in Zagreb or in Ljubljana, in this case, Maribor, etc. I think that a lot of time has passed. There were different works that were very interesting. Just one word about this work by Lina Akiv, who did a performance going to Triglav because she wanted to inscribe herself also symbolically in this nation, Slovenian nationhood that is somehow there is this traditional saying that if you don't climb Triglav, you're not Slovenian, and she is a Slovenian citizen that feels Slovenian but with a background that is Sudanese and Hungarian, wanted to somehow inscribe herself in the Slovenian nation by this gesture. Also works by a group that was, again, Selma Banic, one of the people within them with a similar way of working, and Mariana Hameršak and Women for Women collective in Zagreb, who did this memorial for the people that died while passing the borders between Bosnia and Croatia and Slovenia and Croatia. And Nick Autor, who did her films in the locations around Bihać. The work by Selma Selman, whose mother also lost documents, but within Bosnia. And with the work, somehow she shows on a very poetic way the fight that the mother needed to do in order to be given documents. And then, of course, the works in other galleries that focused on here non-alignment, with doppelgangers, work with the archives of Vojvodina television, and a recent work by Anna Hofner. Then this reinterpretation of an article that was written in Art Margins that looked at this famous video that was shown also in Rijeka at the Industrial Biennial in 2018. Maybe you saw it, by Naim Mohaimen, where he showed a work about the non-alignment 3-channel video installation without omitting Yugoslavia's experience. And then this article that kind of Uroš Pajević, a researcher or a political scientist, I think, from that lives in Berlin, kind of disputed this work, and then they entered a dialogue about Yugoslavia's position in the non-alignment. Again, Selma Selman. And with the last exhibition in Alcatraz, there was that focused on this kind of racism as an ideology, as a set of concepts that were produced and shared. Mina Henriksson did a new commission work where she looked into the history of the National Socialist Party, not from a perspective of its connection to occultism, and try to kind of make some connections, not try to make some connections between different actors and popularization of racism in the framework of National Socialism. And for instance, Daniela Ortiz's work, this was also shown in Rijeka in the same exhibition, in the biennial, Industrial Biennial. It was like a small booklet that is called ABC of Racist Europe, where Daniela Ortiz creates this playful but very provocative abecedarium, talking about through alphabet, kind of showing different racism within Europe today and historically. Also Jasmina Cibic's work, and Tanja Lažetić also exhibited. So yes, I think I can stop sharing if you agree.
Thank you very much, Eva. I wish you all the best for your very hard work, and we will keep in touch and follow partially also as much as we can also your activities.
Super. Thank you for the invite, and thank you for the questions. And it's nice to meet those that I didn't know before, and nice to re-see those that I know. So.
Okay. Many greetings and goodbye.
Ciao. Bye-bye.